Before you ride out into the wild winds of this tale, remember, every secret buried in the dust of the Wild West eventually claws its way back to the surface. If this story chills your spine, twists your heart, or makes you hold your breath, hit that subscribe button now, because more forgotten legends of the frontier are waiting to ride straight into your soul. And this one, dear reader, begins with a woman whispering trembling words, "Please, don't lift the cloth." It was late autumn in the Wild West, the kind of evening where the horizon glowed blood red and the air carried the dust of broken promises across the plains. A lone cowboy named Jeremiah Cole rode his weary horse into a forsaken town called Hollow Creek, a settlement whispered about by ranch hands and saloon drifters, but rarely spoken of in daylight. Jeremiah was not a man easily shaken. He had fought off Comanche raiding parties, buried his brother after a shootout, and seen more death than he cared to count. Yet there was something about Hollow Creek that made the hairs on his neck rise, as if the land itself carried secrets too dark for daylight. He pushed through the swinging doors of the half-empty saloon where tired piano keys rattled out a broken tune, and the barkeep, a wary man with hollow eyes, greeted him with the kind of silence that felt heavier than words. Jeremiah ordered whiskey, but before he could sip, a figure stumbled in from the shadows. A young woman, pale as moonlight, dressed in torn prairie skirts, clutching something wrapped in a faded white cloth. Her eyes darted around like a hunted animal's until they landed on Jeremiah. She whispered so low he could barely hear her, "Please, don't lift the cloth." The room fell dead silent. Even the piano halted as if the keys themselves obeyed her words. Jeremiah frowned, his instinct telling him that trouble rode behind her. He had seen women begging before, women hiding from cruel men or debts unpaid, but this was different. She wasn't protecting herself. She was protecting whatever lay beneath that cloth. And as she clutched it tighter, a shadowy figure appeared in the doorway, a man in a long black coat, eyes burning like coals, a bounty hunter or worse. Jeremiah's hand went to his revolver. The woman trembled, and the cloth shifted in her hands as though something beneath it moved on its own. The night unfolded like a storm on the horizon. Jeremiah, against his own instincts, decided he couldn't just walk away. He offered the woman his table, asked her name. She whispered, "Eliza," though something about the way she said it made Jeremiah suspect it wasn't her real name. She begged him again not to lift the cloth. "If you do, you'll never sleep again." Before he could question further, gunshots cracked outside. The man in the black coat was not alone. 3 riders with red scarves tied across their mouths rode into Hollow Creek, their horses screaming in protest as if spooked by the very thing Eliza carried. The townsfolk hid, bolted doors, and the saloon's patrons ducked behind tables. Jeremiah stood, his revolver gleaming, ready to defend her, but she gripped his wrist, tears streaking her face. "Don't fight for me. Just don't let them take it." His eyes flicked to the cloth, curiosity burning through his veins. Why would a gang of killers chase a woman across half the desert for a bundle wrapped in linen? The fight erupted quick and violent. Jeremiah dropped 2 of the riders with clean shots. The black-coated man vanished into the shadows, and Eliza screamed as one outlaw lunged for the cloth. Jeremiah fired again, sending the man sprawling dead. The saloon was left in ruins of smoke, blood, and silence. Eliza trembled, clutching the cloth as though it was her very soul. Jeremiah, catching his breath, finally asked the question clawing at him, "What's under there?" Her silence was louder than gunfire. She only repeated the words, "Please, don't lift it." But Jeremiah was a man forged by curiosity and survival. He knew that anything men would kill for must hold value. So later that night, in the abandoned barn where they took shelter, as the wind howled through broken boards, Jeremiah stared at the bundle while Eliza slept in exhaustion. His hand reached for the cloth. The fabric felt cold, colder than desert nights should ever be. And then it moved again. Something inside shifted, not like gold coins or paper, but like flesh. Jeremiah's heart slammed in his chest. He pulled back, but not before the corner of the cloth slid loose. What he glimpsed beneath turned his skin to ice at a pale, small hand, not lifeless, but twitching. Blood silver, the final choice, and the price paid. The climax came not in words but in thunder, in the roar of revolvers and the scream of dying men as Ethan turned his gun not against the sisters, but against his former ally Granger, bullets tearing through the mirage of promises and striking at the very heart of greed. The battle raged through the ghost town, buildings catching fire, shadows of Apache ancestors seeming to rise from the smoke as if summoned by vengeance itself. And amid it all Ethan fought like a man possessed, driven not by gold but by something fiercer, something purer. Perhaps love, perhaps guilt, perhaps the last ember of honor refusing to die. When the dust settled, Granger lay broken in the dirt, the cursed silver spilling from his pockets like liquid sin, and the sisters stood free, their eyes glistening with both gratitude and fear as they turned to Ethan, waiting to hear what price he would finally demand. Silence stretched, broken only by the crackle of burning timber, until Ethan holstered his gun and said in a voice hoarse with dust and blood, "The price is this. You never forget who saved you, but you also never forgive me if I should fall back into darkness." It was a strange bargain, half mercy, half curse, and as the sisters led him to their homeland, into the sacred canyon where ancient songs rose with the wind, Ethan felt the weight of his choice pressing down. For though he had saved them, though he had slain his own past in the body of Silas Granger, he knew the West never allowed a man to walk away clean. Sooner or later, the debts came due in the end. He disappeared into legend, some say wandering with the sisters into the mountains, others whispering he sold his soul to the silver he had refused. But all agree on one thing: on that night at the hanging tree, when 5 voices cried, "Save us," Ethan Cole became more than a cowboy, more than a lawman, more than a sinner. He became the ghost of the West's own conscience, a reminder that salvation always comes with a price, and that sometimes the heaviest burden a man can carry is the weight of the lives he chooses to save. And so, dear reader, if this tale gripped your heart and dragged you through the dust and shadows of a world where every choice cuts deep, don't just ride off quietly. Subscribe now, because more stories like this one are waiting, stories that will test your soul, fire your imagination, and leave you staring into the embers of your own midnight wondering what price you'd pay if the voices cried out to you.